Mercury, planet of communication, goes retrograde 3 times every year for approximately 3 weeks at a time. During this period, Mercury is retracing its movement back into the sign that it's already in or back into the previous sign. It has commonly been observed that during Mercury retrograde cycles, there are higher rates of technological glitches and communication breakdowns, as well as transportation delays and other mishaps. A Mercury retrograde period is influenced by the sign that it's in, as well as the aspects being made to other planets. As it transits your own natal chart, it could be going backward through one house or back into the previous house. Everyone experiences Mercury retrograde differently in that if Mercury does not seem to disturb any personal planets, its retrograde motion might not even be noticed by that individual. If Mercury is directly transiting one's planets, it becomes a lot more noticeable, not negatively necessarily, but usually in a way that requires some patience. Mercury retrograde is geared toward redoing and reviewing things rather than beginning anew. It can bring things up from the past that need to be clarified as well. The following descriptions of Mercury retrograde are general rather than specific to certain zodiac signs. Do keep in mind the sign or the 2 signs that it happens to be moving retrograde in, as well as the houses, for these will indicate the specific areas under review for the collective overall and for you as an individual. Since I am talking about Mercury going retrograde through the houses, I am going to start with the 12th house, moving backward into the 1st house. Many times people will have Mercury going through not just 1, but 2 houses. So I will always mention the difference between Mercury going through just that 1 house or transitioning from one to the other. Mercury transiting the 12th house. This is a time when you have a lot of introspection and perhaps daydreaming or recalling of certain events in your life. You're going over a lot of different things that have happened. Your focus might be turned toward research, investigation, or meditation. If you are spiritually inclined, this would be a great time for seeking and just going inward in general or communicating with spirit. A lot of times when Mercury is going through the 12th house, there is this pull toward the undercurrents in life in general, and this influence could be very sensitizing. A person could become sensitive to a lot of different things that normally they wouldn't be. Another manifestation is that they develop certain health problems that are perhaps difficult to pin down or diagnose, or maybe it's just that they feel like they're more in their head about things. And it's a different feeling for Mercury staying in the 12th house and Mercury retrograding from the 1st back into the 12th. So when that happens, a person is going back to seek some clarity and silence inside of themselves because life might have been very active, very busy, and now the person is wanting to get back to, oh wait, what's been happening and how am I really processing that? Where does it really sit in my soul? And sometimes people feel that they have less range of motion for some reason, or they are losing a momentum that they thought they had. Maybe they had a false start and now they have to go back and redo something so that when they go out and begin, whether it's a new relationship or a new job or just a new anything, that they have a stronger sense about what their position is and where this is going and have more of a solid base to operate from. So it could seem like a crumbling of certain foundations, or just that they have to redo certain things before they can truly move forward. Either way, with Mercury retrograde in the 12th house, it is very probable that a person would want to put a do not disturb sign on the door, to mute their phone, and to go incognito online for a while. Mercury retrograde through the 11th house brings a focus on friendships and organizations, and those include professional organizations, work organizations, labor unions, these types of things. So you would probably find yourself going back to review, what happened in this collective decision that was made. Was the advice sound that was given? Does this apply to everyone in the group, or are things becoming very lopsided or sloppy? Are there a lot of misunderstandings that need to be gone over? Did you have a falling out with a friend, or are you going back to visit a friend? You might be making some short trips to visit friends that you haven't seen in a long time. If your career is centered around technology in some way, you work a lot with computers, you will find that since Aquarius rules this house, you'll have a lot of glitches or changes happening around that. Now, it's a very different feeling when Mercury is retrograding from the 12th house back into the 11th, because that would mean that you are finally leaving a situation of confinement or introspection, and you're going back into the open, you're going back into the world, you're going back to connect with people or things that you enjoyed doing. Your timeout is up, and now it's going to become more active. You go from a very quiet house to a very active house. You see, that's why it's so important to understand the difference between, is it just going through one house, or is it going from one house to another house? So you're going to find that the pace of life is actually picking up, and this is one of those influences that will probably have your phone ringing, emails coming, a lot of different people from all over want to get in touch with you, and some of them might be people that you haven't heard from in a while, or that you need to clear something up with. It's very likely because it's retrograde, so you might still have to review and redo some things, but it's generally a benign influence overall. Mercury transiting retrograde through the 10th house indicates that you will be doing some sort of review involving your career, your social standing, your public life, perhaps even certain authority figures or a specific authority figure in your life. That could be parental, could be one of your parents, whether you get along with them or not, that something happens to them or you have a miscommunication with one of them. It could also be that you are the authority figure and you have some very important decisions to make regarding your employees or those who look to you for leadership and direction. It's entirely possible that during this transit of Mercury retrograde through your 10th house, you also have some upgrades around your career. Maybe you start a new job, but it just takes some adjustment for you, some getting used to, and you might find it's not a job that you stay with long term, but it might still be very positive or something that you would later view as, oh, that was a really great stepping stone towards something that's more what I'd like to do in the long term. It's a very different thing when Mercury is retrograding only through the 10th, or it's retrograding from the 11th house back into the 10th house, because that means you're leaving some sort of very busy, frenzied, active social scene to one where you're going to get back down to work and get serious about things, okay? Like enough partying and now let's get back to work. Or maybe it's getting back to the work that you enjoy and cutting out the noise. Maybe the work that you were doing was very distracting or troublesome. So you're going to get back to business, there will probably be a lot of things that need to be taken care of and people are counting on you. You might feel that you have more pressure or more paperwork on the desk or whatever it is. And maybe you will gladly, pick up the pace and pick up the hammer and get to work. Maybe that's just something that will give you more of a sense of purpose and direction. But in any case, you'll find that it is a very busy and active transit. Mercury retrograde through the 9th house places attention on long distance travel or communication. It's also the publishing house. So if you are in publications or if you have a career that is somehow in the public eye, you will find that you'll need to go back and review or redo certain things that you put out into the world, things that were said, and perhaps it's going over things that were said to you. It's also the house of higher learning and philosophy, so you might find that you're doing a lot of spiritual work, research, or going back to a special place that has held spiritual significance to you, going on a spiritual pilgrimage back to a sacred space. And you will probably also find that You're driven to take a lot of notes, more notes than usual, because you want to take it all in and understand. It's the house of understanding on a deeper level. And so if you have the retrograding Mercury from the 10th into the 9th, that means you'll be withdrawing your attention from a career or occupation, going back to school, back to your studies, back to get more information that you can use down the line to further advance yourself, perhaps. But it's definitely a different feeling if it's going back from the 10th into the 9th, because in that case, sense that shift in your priorities taking place. Like, well, money is not the thing right now. It's not the biggest highlight. Now I want to get down to how does it all work? Taking a thing apart and understanding the deeper mechanism. And for many people, this will be a retrograding period of deeper spiritual seeking and coming to higher understandings, deeper understandings, recognizing deeper truths. Another manifestation is returning to a simpler way of life, a more authentic way of life that is not so money and career driven. Mercury retrograding the 8th house could bring review regarding joint finances, property, and taxes, or it could be a deeper plunge into psychic and spiritual realms. This depends a lot on other factors in a person's life. This is a very intense house. It tends to deal a lot with money and finances in general, but especially big financial obligations or big financial rewards or inheritances, the goods of the dead. So there might be a focus on people that have passed and what they have left behind that must be taken care of by the living. Another occurrence with Mercury retrograde transiting the 8th house could be an increase of certain psychic experiences or even memories and experiences in the dream time on the astral plane that are very troubling or intense or cryptic, hard to understand, and something that causes a person to want to do some deeper seeking. Now, the difference between Mercury in the 8th house and transiting from the 9th back into the 8th is that with the 8th house, it's just all going to be that really intensely. But if it's transiting from the 9th back into the 8th house, then we have a situation where the person is feeling very free and elevated and like they've just had some mystical enlightening experience to, oh wait, I've got to go back and look at this point or this area of darkness. This is not the most fun part of the spiritual journey, but when we look at the so-called shadows, so it could be that a person has to go back. And for some people, that might actually be very mundane. It might be that they feel like they're being pulled or dragged back down into something very mundane after having had a very elevating mystical experience. But by doing that and not trying to escape it or avoid it, they will find that there's more clarity and completion moving forward. Mercury going retrograde through the 7th house brings a review of contracts and agreements and relationship dynamics. So if a person is in a committed partnership of any kind, doesn't have to be marriage, it doesn't even have to be romantic, this could be a business relationship, but it's a type of relationship that is somewhat interdependent or somewhat, dependent on some sort of agreement that has been made. It's an expected thing that both people have certain expectations, and now they are having some difficulties or they need to work through what is the agreement. Maybe that's changing for one or both people. So it's a change in the expectations and in the agreements and in the contracts overall. And if Mercury is transiting from the 8th house back into the 7th, then that would mean a return to commitment and partnership, typically from some kind of sobering reason, such as a job change or a death or something in which money is involved. and sometimes something where there was infidelity and that had to be worked through, and perhaps the person is going to, either you or the other person's going to give you a chance, you're going to give that other person a chance, or, it could mean a breakup. It could definitely be a time where people are breaking up. Just as it could be the time when a job ends, it comes to an end, it's not working anymore, it doesn't make sense anymore. There could be some legal complications coming up too that have to do with a relationship, a job, or just something else, because this is the house that pertains to the law. Going back to the relationship dynamics of Mercury retrograde in the 7th house, this is another classic rebound transit. This could happen too because even though the relationship was dysfunctional and people broke up for good reasons, one or both people could miss each other and get back together to hook up, and that's the sexual, going back from the 8th house into the 7th, and people are connecting like as if, friends with benefits or something. Like, obviously this relationship is not moving forward anymore, but people are, revisiting some aspect of it. And so they need to find the closure. These are just a few possibilities of Mercury transiting retrograde through the 7th house. Mercury retrograde through the 6th house places focus on the health, hygiene, work, and daily routines. So things are going to be undergoing some sort of review there, and they might be for the better. Someone could go on a diet and lose some weight, or they could go on some sort of a cleanse and have, mixed results, good results. This doesn't guarantee good or bad either way. It just means there's going to be some sort of focus on reviewing or releasing something with regard to the themes of this 6th house. If uniforms are required for work, then this might be a time when a person feels like they have to go out and buy a new uniform because the old ones are dirty and torn, or they need a new backpack, or they need new supplies for the job, or maybe they even need a new car, or they just need to change the tires on the car. It's how they get around. That's how they get to work every day. So these types of mundane things that pertain to health, that pertain to work, are going to be coming up to be solved and upgraded. Sometimes with Mercury retrograding from the 7th back into the 6th house could bring the sickness of a partner or some sort of problem relating to one's partnership that requires a lot of work and negotiation, and it could seem like a person is having to slow down. And, maybe that causes delays in the other person, in your work, if you have to take care of your partner more. Another thing is that maybe you are working together towards something. You're working on a goal, or together you're working on the diet or all of the upgrades in your lives as a couple. In any case, with Mercury transiting retrograde through the 6th house, your nerves might be on edge. You might feel like there are some delays and glitches that are causing you to feel extra stressed out. So just be patient with the process. Try not to let things get to you so much. And one last message for you: pay attention to your environment. There could be something hanging on the edge, just waiting to fall on your head. If you're not careful, look before you leap. Just be aware of anything hazardous or crazy that could, trip you up in some way, and don't live in total fear, but just know these things can happen, especially when we're rushed, we're not paying attention, we're moving too quickly, things like that. Mercury retrograde through the 5th house is going to put review on creative endeavors, pleasure, and any offspring if they are a part of one's life. This could be a period where things are getting you back in touch with your creative side, your inner child, or maybe because this house is dealing with not just children, but this house with Mercury, there would be the intellectual side, the psychology of children. So maybe it's about, finding a new school or homeschooling your child, or finding ways to help them grow and learn. Another thing is that if Mercury is transiting from the 6th into the 5th, this is a positive shift from work matters and mundane matters, or, from focusing on your health and trying to get better to now you feel better, or you've paid your dues and now you can, spend your money and have fun and do things that you enjoy. So it allows you some more free time, some more creative time to do the things that you really love instead of just doing things that you have to do because you're obligated to do them. It's very probable that your social life will pick up. In general, this is one of the better transits to have with Mercury retrograde. And you either didn't have the opportunity to have fun before, or you didn't take that chance because you felt that you just had to keep working at the grind day after day. And finally your time has come. So enjoy it, and definitely carve out the time to spend with your loved ones as well. Mercury retrograding through the 4th house brings a focus on home life as well as relationship to family members. So let's start with home life. There could be a focus on being at home, staying at home, fixing things at home, or, a job, an occupation that is at home, maybe behind the desk on the computer. Or it could be focused on family relationships, maybe a relationship to a parent. Not always a parent, though. It could be a child. It could be someone else in the family, or someone that feels like family, even a close friend. It could be that, especially if Mercury is transiting from the 5th house back into the 4th house, that indeed a child or family member is coming back, or a lover to be with you, to live with you, or you are going back to live with a partner, because the 5th house is love affairs. And so, you could be getting back together with someone and creating that cozy feeling again with that person. But another manifestation is that you are going back to yourself, to your sanctuary, to your inner sanctum, I like to call it. And you are spending more time in your inner world, quite possibly in solitude. You might, just like with Mercury going through the other water houses, the 12th and the 8th, you might just want to be alone and quiet within yourself, because you've had a lot going on and now you just want to make sense of your dreams, your visions, and your deeper impressions. Mercury going retrograde through the 3rd house is a highlight on the very mental faculties and communication that Mercury itself has rulership over. So it increases the amount of thoughts, the amount of memories passing through. Specifically, these might be memories of family members, such as siblings, cousins, neighbors, people in the neighborhood, people that you knew way back then, because this is the house that rules those types of relatives and connections. And because this is already a very mercurial house, your nerves could be on edge. You could feel a bit anxious. You could feel like you have a lot on your mind and a lot is happening all over the place. It feels a little bit scattered like. And if Mercury is transiting from the 4th house back into the 3rd, this would definitely also be a signal of reconnecting with someone from your past, probably a family member. And it could be that you're seeking to heal that relationship or clarify a misunderstanding. So that would be the positive, is that you are clarifying. In some cases, people just go deeper into the argument. They have family feuds with this sort of transit. Mercury retrograde in the house of correspondence and basic learning and basic speech, you can probably bet there will be some sorts of misunderstandings to take place in general. Maybe you have what seems like a little misunderstanding at the supermarket that turns out to be a huge problem later on. Maybe you got home, it was an hour drive, and you realize you got charged way more, or something's wrong with the thing that you purchased. And I don't know, there's a whole list of things that could go on with this sort of transit, but you get the basic idea. It's a lot of this, that, and the other. So try not to get too caught up in things, and remember, sometimes humor is a lifesaver. Mercury going retrograde in the second house brings attention to the finances in some way, and a person might feel they have to redo things regarding the whole business structure or their spending habits. So if you have this transit and you're feeling stressed about money, there's any number of changes that need to be made. And sometimes it's just how you think about money. It's not necessarily how you spend money. And if Mercury is moving from the third back into the second house, it's as a result of things that you have learned or things that you need to learn that are affecting your finances, or people that you've met, key connections you've made, and now you need to bring that attention back into, okay, how does it serve my business? Or perhaps I need some business coaching or training around this so that I can make better use of it, or that I can get further ahead with this. So you're usually going to have some sort of review with, how has the message been getting across with perhaps with sales, because this is a money house. Are people understanding the ads that I'm putting out, or are people just, am I getting lost in the shuffle? And did I hire the right person for the job, or do I have the right people around me, the right influences? You could be looking for or reconnecting with a certain ally or someone that could give you helpful business advice. Mercury retrograde in this Earth house might also draw attention to your health and your dietary habits, and maybe you're looking at where you've been indulging and you need to cut down on the carbs, or maybe it's just that you need to give more attention to the body as a whole and become more grounded, more integrated, especially if you've been in your head too much. Mercury going from the third house, which is very mentally stimulating, to the second is saying, hey, remember me? I'm this body, I'm this vessel that houses you, and I need some attention. Overall, Mercury in the second house is getting you to look at your whole value system and what it is that you place so much attention on in your day-to-day life, and how that causes you to act in certain ways to go after what you consider to be important. Mercury retrograde in the first house places an emphasis on your appearance, how you project yourself into the world, and just how you communicate overall, even if that communication doesn't reflect who you are deep down inside. So with the retrograding here, you are going to either change something about how you put yourself out there, or you might have people coming at you in a defensive way, or in a way they're projecting something back to you, and you're asking, hey, what the heck? Where's this coming from? Because it's causing you to review something about how you've been going about your day-to-day life. In some cases, it's more of a positive thing in which what's coming back to you is something you didn't expect, like, hey, something you said was really helpful, and I just wanted to let you know. Someone's coming out of the blue, maybe to give something back, or give you feedback, or to follow up with you in some way when you assumed that they forgot all about you. With Mercury going retrograde back into the first house from the second house, there could be a change of your appearance or a change in your health or day-to-day life that's either positive or negative, depending on where you've been spending your money, how you've been spending the majority of your time. And some people, if they have been overindulging, they could have a very harsh reality check. Now, this is one manifestation. If you have this transit, don't panic. It doesn't always mean something negative. A positive manifestation, retrograding from the second house into the first house, is that now you better understand the investments that you've made. They weren't a waste of your time, your money, your energy. They just didn't yield results right away, and you shouldn't give up. So maybe you're reviewing that and you're starting to get more of a clear, full picture of what that was and what it takes, and growing a new sense of resolution inside of yourself.